the forge of a leader. Most men have already bowed, not before God, but before comfort. They surrendered to easy routines, to instant pleasure, to weakness disguised as freedom. They became spectators of their own lives, hiding behind screens and empty words. But the world doesn't need men who talk. It needs warriors who stand firm when everyone else retreats. The Templar is not remembered for living well, but for dying fighting for something greater than himself. That's what leadership is, choosing sacrifice when others choose escape. And that's why most men will never be worthy to lead. Leadership isn't charisma, it isn't followers, nor a microphone in your hand. The modern world has turned leaders into influencers and authority into entertainment. It has confused voice with power, appearance with essence. A Templar never sought to be followed. He followed a purpose. That's why true leaders are rare, because few are willing to pay the price of anonymity, of self-denial, of silent discipline. Today, everyone wants glory, but almost no one accepts the sacrifice it demands. To lead is not to be seen, it is to serve. While the modern man screams for validation, the Templar warrior remains silent, prays, and advances. He doesn't need to be noticed. He needs to win. The forge of the leader. No man is born a leader. He is shaped, like steel, by fire. The Templar was not made worthy by words, but by scars. The heat of battle burned away his fear, and the cold of sleepless nights hardened his soul. Every fall, every failure, every pain was part of the forge. Leadership is not a gift. It is the result of discipline and sacrifice. The ordinary man runs from discomfort. The leader seeks it. He knows that suffering is the sword that divides the weak from the strong. While the world chases pleasure, he bows before pain and learns from it. He doesn't complain, he observes. He doesn't ask, "Why me?" but "What for?" Because he knows steel only becomes useful after it's passed through the fire. The forge of a leader begins in solitude, in silence, in the unseen hours before dawn. That's when he fights sleep, fatigue, and doubt. That's where true command is born, inside the man who has learned to obey himself. He who doesn't master his mind will be a slave to his impulses. He who doesn't rule his body will be dragged by it. The Templar trained to his limits. He prayed until silence answered. He marched without glory, fought without witnesses. He knew the battlefield never forgives the unprepared, just as life never forgives the undisciplined. To lead is to endure what others cannot. It is to stand when everyone else gives up. The forge is not punishment, it is a calling. And the man who understands that begins to change. He becomes harder, calmer, steadier, and the same fire that once burned him now refines him. The Templar Code. The true leader doesn't need written laws. He carries a code within his chest, an invisible, unbreakable code. So it was among the Templars, men who took vows not of power, but of obedience, poverty, and purity. They lived in the midst of war, but their sharpest weapons were faith, loyalty, and silence. The Templar never spoke what did not need to be said. He wasted no energy on opinions, for he knew that words are swords, and in the wrong hands, swords wound the innocent. The modern leader, if he wishes to be worthy, must learn to be silent. Only the man who masters his own tongue can be trusted. Loyalty, the Templars' shield. Loyalty was the shield of these warriors, loyalty to God, to purpose, and to their given word. They marched in formation, each ready to die for the man beside him. Today, many make promises, but few keep them. At the first sign of hardship, they change direction and betray what they once vowed to protect. Not the Templar. He understands that a word is a vow, and to break it is to die while still breathing. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is faithfulness to duty, even when fear screams the loudest. The Templar charged into battle knowing he might die, but also knowing that cowardice kills long before the sword does. Faith, then, was never a light belief. It was fuel for the impossible. And there was something else that held it all together: integrity. A Templar could fail, fall, or bleed, but he would never lie to himself. Because the leader who deceives his own soul loses the respect of heaven. He stops leading by example and starts leading by illusion. And every empire built on illusion will one day collapse. The Templar Code hasn't aged. It has only been forgotten. But every man who wishes to lead must find it again within himself. The solitude of command. To lead is to walk alone, and that is the part few can bear. Every man wants to be followed, but almost none accept being left behind. The Templar knew that the path of leadership was narrow and silent. He carried the weight of decisions and the burden of souls that depended on his courage. And when the battlefield fell quiet, it was in the echo of his own thoughts that he met God. Solitude is not punishment, it is purification. The man surrounded by voices cannot hear the truth. The man who isolates himself from the noise finally hears his own soul. That's why ancient leaders withdrew to pray, to fast, to be still, not to escape, but to refocus. Because the one who cannot stand alone will never be ready to guide others. The Templar slept with his sword beside him and his heart on watch. He knew that no one could fight his battles for him. The solitude of command is the price of the calling. The cross, carried by those who see further and must bear the weight of a vision others do not yet understand. The true leader knows the taste of misunderstanding. He will be criticized, rejected, even mocked, yet he does not turn aside. He knows that the approval of the crowd is fleeting, but the approval of the Most High is eternal. That is what keeps him standing when everything around him begins to crumble. Many crave the title, few can bear the throne. Because the throne is cold, it demands sacrifice, vigilance, and silence. No true leader sleeps peacefully, not for lack of faith, but because he carries the burden of watching over others. Solitude is the altar where the ego dies and the spirit awakens. And only after that death can a man lead with purity. It is in that silence that the Templar hears the voice that guides him. The inner war. The greatest battle of a leader is not fought on the field, but within. Before conquering enemies, he must conquer his own heart. The Templar knew the most dangerous demon carries no sword. He whispers comfort, pride, and fear. It is that enemy who destroys armies from within, who corrupts leaders when no one is watching. The inner war is fought every day, in the smallest choices. When the body craves rest, but the soul demands resolve. When doubt disguises itself as wisdom. When desire tries to command the spirit. It is on this invisible battlefield that the man is revealed. The true leader is not the strongest. He is the one who remains faithful when no one is watching. The Templar's prayer. The Templar did not pray for victory. He prayed for strength to endure the war. He understood that the greatest conquest is to remain whole, for the mind is a fortress. When it falls, everything falls. That's why he guarded his thoughts, disciplined his emotions, and nourished his spirit with faith and purpose. The inner war never ends. It changes shape, changes ground, but never ceases. The leader who forgets this becomes arrogant, and the arrogant always fall. The Templar kept the humility of those who know they depend on God even to breathe. He fought on the outside, but kept watch within. He who conquers himself becomes unstoppable. No criticism can break him. No temptation can corrupt him. No applause can seduce him, because his victory is not in the hands of men, but in the strength of his spirit. The Templar warrior knew, leading others is merely the consequence of mastering one's own chaos. Modern battlefields. The modern world doesn't need new speeches, it needs steady men. To be a leader today is to fight invisible wars, to stand when everything whispers to give up, to rise early when no one sees, to speak less and do more, to keep a clear mind in an age of distraction and a pure heart in a time of masks. The Templar spirit can live in any man, in the father who teaches by example, in the worker who acts with honor though unseen, in the young man who chooses to serve before demanding to be served. The Templar is not bound to a century but to a principle. He builds himself as one builds a temple, brick by brick, habit by habit. Want to begin? Master your body, still your tongue, command your mind. Pray before you act. Make silence your fortress and discipline your sword. Then, when chaos comes, and it will not fall with the crowd. You will remain standing. The weight of the call. One day, every man will be remembered, but few will be honored. Many will have lived, few will have served. Most chased comfort, a rare few chased purpose. And among them, only the steadfast endured to the end. Those are the true leaders, not by granted authority, but by proven character. The Templar knew leadership is a sacred burden. Those who carry it with pride will fall. Those who carry it with reverence will endure. That is why the calling is not for everyone. It is for those who can bear the weight, the silence, and the sacrifice. The world is full of men, but empty of knights. And time itself is calling for those still brave enough to say, "Send me." For when chaos reigns and the lights go out, it will be those few who remain standing, with a sword in their hand and peace in their heart,